Hello everyone and welcome to The Real Rundown. My name is Josh and with the release of James Gunn's Superman film, I thought it was the right time to share my ranking of all the live-action Superman films. Now be aware, this is my opinion, and if yours differs, that's okay. I'd love to hear your ranking in the comment section down below. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the rundown. Coming in last place, I have Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. Now, the couple of positives I can give this film are its overall message of complete nuclear disarmament, which I completely agree with, and I like that a Superman film tries to tackle a topic like this. And also Christopher Reeve, who still brings his all when playing the character. However, where the film falls flat is its execution. The writing is abysmal, with some of the worst and weirdest character development and plot points I've seen in a comic book film. The film is also poorly made, with it looking and feeling extremely cheap, which really doesn't make it appealing to look at all. Overall, the film is not good at all, and it's probably one of the worst comic book films ever made, which is why it comes in last place. Coming in 7th place, I have Superman 3. Now, just like with Superman 4, Christopher Reeve still brings his all to the character, which does help the film quite a bit. With this one also being more comedic than the first two, I did find myself laughing at some of the jokes as well. However, where the film really falls flat is that for most of the film, it doesn't feel like a Superman film, as Superman himself isn't actually in it that much. The film is more like the Richard Pryor film starring Superman rather than Superman 3. The film's villain also feels like a generic knockoff of Lex Luthor, which really doesn't give the film any originality. Overall, Superman 3 does have some funny moments in it, however the film features forgettable and generic villains and barely has Superman in it, which is why it comes in the number 7 spot. Coming in 6th place, I have Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, some parts of the film I do like, especially the action scenes, which I think are quite good. And some of the casting choices for the film as well, like Ben Affleck as Batman, are quite good. However, the writing is where the film fails. There is way too much going on in this film, which can make the film feel quite confusing a lot of the time. The characterization as well is also completely baffling, with Superman being this stoic and depressed character for most of the film, and Batman unaliving people, which is not in character at all. Lex Luthor as well is extremely odd and way too over the top, which doesn't help the film either. The film also tries to set up way too much, with Wonder Woman and the Justice League, which sometimes makes the film feel more like a setup for something bigger rather than its own individual story. Overall, I do find myself enjoying the film for the most part. However, the overstuffed plot, weird characterization, and the setups for future films drag the film down quite a bit, which is why Batman v Superman comes in 6th place. Coming in 5th place, I have Superman 2. Now, for the most part, this is a great continuation to the original Superman film. Christopher Reeve is still great as Superman. The plot, I feel, is quite interesting, and for the time, the action sequences are pretty great. However, there's a lot in the film which I feel drags it down a bit. The romantic storyline, for instance, with Lois feels odd, with her only motivation for loving Clark being that he's Superman doesn't really fit at all. And General Zod and his henchmen are portrayed quite silly at times as well, which makes the overall tone of the film feel inconsistent. As well as the whole plot of Superman losing his powers, which feels unearned and makes for an odd choice in the film. Overall, Superman 2 is an okay film that has some great performances and great action scenes, but the inconsistent tone, weak romance and silly villains put this at the number 5 spot. In 4th place, I have Superman Returns. Now, this may seem a bit controversial putting this film so high, as some people find it quite boring. However, I feel that it is a great Superman film. For me, the film has some strong character arcs and also has a strong emotional core. Some of the performances are great as well, in particular Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor, who provides quite a great interpretation of Gene Hackman's Lex. The film visually is also stunning to look at, and the production design is great as well. However, I do have to agree that the film does gets quite slow at times, and it doesn't always recapture the magic of the original Christopher Reeve films, as this film is actually a continuation of those films. Overall, Superman Returns is a great film that I believe, for the most part, is a worthy successor to the original films, which is why it comes in at the number 4 spot. Coming in third place, I have Man of Steel. Now, this for the most part is a great modern interpretation of Superman, with some great characters and casting, an amazing score by Hans Zimmer, and some of the best visuals in a modern comic book film. However, some of the writing choices are quite baffling to me. For instance, making Superman a lonely and quiet character doesn't really fit Superman. And I also don't agree with how Jonathan Kent was unalived in the film and how Superman dealt with Zod at the end of the film. The chemistry between Superman and Lois also just isn't there, and the choice for Lois to know who he is from the very start is something I don't agree with. All of these choices really drag down the film for me and don't make it as great as it should be, which is why for me it comes in at the number 3 spot. Taking the runner-up spot, I have the original Superman film with Christopher Reeve. Now, this film to me is a classic, a truly amazing adaptation of Superman, and I believe is still one of the best comic book films ever made, nearly 50 years on. The magic this film has is undeniable, and the cast and acting in this film are great too, as well as the visuals, which have aged surprisingly well. However, the humour and the portrayals of Lex Luthor and his henchmen feel quite dated, especially Lex, who, although Gene Hackman's performance is amazing, the Lex we see in the film is an adaptation of quite a dated version of the character that doesn't fit with the Lex people typically know. The film is also sometimes, I feel, overly long in some parts, which can make the film feel boring at times, although this is only in some small parts. Overall, the original Superman is an amazing film and a great comic book film that it still is high quality to this day, which is why it comes in at the number 2 spot. That means taking the top spot on my ranking is James Gunn's Superman. Now, this film to me is a masterpiece of a comic book film and is one of the only comic book films I can actually say feels like a comic book. The performances and casting are amazing, especially David Corenswet and Nicholas Hoult as Superman and Lex Luthor respectively. The visuals are top-notch, the score is electric and mesmerizing, and overall the film just makes me hopeful and ecstatic for the future of DC and film and television, which is why it takes the top spot and for me is the best Superman film and one of the greatest comic book films of all time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. And turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload from the channel. Don't forget to share the video as well so we can help to grow the channel even further. And as always, I'll see you on the next rundown.